All right, so we are in here going to talk about a situation involving Glenn Simmons. Now, he was the man who did one of the longest prison sentences in American history to the tune of 48 years. Last year, he was released in 2023. 6 months later, the district judge, Amy Palumbo, made it official where she found that the offense for which Mr. Glenn Simmons was convicted, sentenced in prison, was not committed by him. And we have an update as to what's going on with the Glenn Simmons situation, because after he got released, he sued the city and the estate for the detective who was responsible for putting him in prison for wrongful conviction. So without further ado, let's get to it. DJ, spin that shit.
Tonight, we have an update on the longest wrongful incarceration case in U.S. history. The Edmond City Council has approved a multi-million-dollar settlement for Glenn Simmons, who spent 48 years behind bars for a murder he did not commit. Earlier this year, Simmons sued the city of Edmond and the Edmond police detective who orchestrated the case against him. It was a federal civil rights lawsuit, and the case has just been settled. The Edmond City Council has agreed to pay $7.15 million to resolve the claim. Simmons also sued Oklahoma City Police, and the Oklahoma City detective who put him behind bars. That part of the lawsuit is still being negotiated. One additional note, for 20 years, News 4 has been covering this case, and for 20 years, Edmond police have insisted there were no problems with their murder investigation, telling us in 2014, quote, "We have no reason to believe the wrong people were prosecuted for this crime," a statement they stood by last year, even after Glenn Simmons was released and his conviction was vacated. Following the news of the settlement today, we reached out to the city and Edmond Police Department again. They told us, quote, "We have no comment at this time."
Yeah, so of course they're not going to have any comment when they are out here, wrongfully putting people in prison. But, one can make an argument that the system is working the way it's supposed to, because this is one of many stories where you have black men and black women wrongfully accused of incidents they weren't involved in, get put in prison for a long period of time. Some don't even make it out of prison before it gets revealed that they were innocent the whole time. And it's disgusting. But yet, this country won't right its wrongs. They won't right its wrongs. And we got this so-called black woman running for president of the United States. She's been responsible for getting people locked up, but yet they want us to vote for this woman. Ain't no way in hell. I'll vote for a dead duck before I vote for Kamala Harris. $7.15 million for a man that's been in prison almost 50 years. The Edmond City Council approved the settlement on Monday after Simmons filed a lawsuit in federal court earlier this year against the estate of the late Edmond Detective Sergeant Anthony Tony Garrett, the retired Oklahoma City Detective Claude Chaubert, and the investigators' respective cities. The settlement resolves only Simmons' claim against Garrett in the city of Edmond. His claims against Chaubert in Oklahoma City is still pending. Then last year, he only got like $175,000 and let the system tell it that was the maximum amount of money they could give him. So let me get this straight. This man did 48 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. And I'm going to get to the crime in question here in a bit. So not only you only pay him $175,000 $75,000, but then you only turn around and pay him $7 million? $7 million. And then, one thing I haven't talked about yet, well, I've talked about it on a few videos, but one thing they're doing now, a lot of these states are doing, is they are changing the laws now to the point where if you get wrongfully convicted and you get wrongfully put in prison for all these years doing football numbers, even when you get out, you won't be able to get any restitution. You won't be able to get any compensation for all that time lost. They're literally changing the laws to where you can't get any kind of compensation for being wrongfully convicted of a crime. Meanwhile, we have prosecutors commit blatant misconduct, withholding evidence, lying on fabricating the facts of the case. We have police officers who lie on police reports, getting involved in shady tactics to coerce a confession or to get a quote unquote witness to provide false testimony. Where's the punishment for that? Where's their time in court? Why aren't they getting prosecuted and sent to prison? Ain't supposed to be held to a higher standard, right? They still get to go home to their family, knowing that their sins is being swept under the rug by the system. We have jury bias. We have judicial misconduct. We got all that stuff going on. And yet, an innocent man gets put in prison. All the meanwhile, the people who are here committing the misconduct, they still get to go home scot-free, like nothing happened, like they were performing their civil duty. And then when you find later on, these individuals run for political offices, and they hold political office. They're the main ones writing the laws. Now, this questionable incident involved a store clerk. Glenn Simmons was convicted of the fatal 1974 shooting of clerk Carolyn Sue Rogers during a robbery at a liquor store. His team alleges that Garrett and Charbet had evidence that would have proven Simmons' innocence. Simmons' attorneys also argued that the investigators falsified reports of a witness who had survived the robbery, identifying Simmons in a lineup. He spent 48 years in prison until Oklahoma City Judge Amy Palumbo ordered him released in 2023 and then determined Simmons to be actually innocent later that year. He is known to be the longest served wrongfully convicted man in United States history, according to the University of Michigan Law School's National Registry of Exonerations. A jury trial in Simmons' federal case is scheduled for March 2025. Another man, Don Roberts, who was also convicted of Rogers' murder, he and Simmons were both initially sentenced to death before a 1977 U.S. Supreme Court ruling caused their sentences to be modified to life in prison. Now, he was paroled in 2008. But his conviction still stands. So make that make sense. But this is where we at. This is where we at when it comes to this individual, Glenn Simmons. So, in another video, I will talk about the situation going on in Louisville, Kentucky, where you had the two officers who falsified a police report leading to the death of Breonna Taylor, well, them two clowns got off, unfortunately. And I'm going to expand more on that in another video, but you guys let me know what y'all think about this. YouTube is not sending out notifications for this particular video. I don't know if I've been shadow banned or whatever, but the notification is not going out. So when you come in, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share these videos, and I'm going to catch you on the next one. This your man. Scream at me. Hurry!